junior and senior year, I was able to conduct the Penn State basketball pep band.
And what was that like?
So, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it really was. I learned how to understand working with different parts of a big production. If you think of a basketball game as a production, right? Who are the different people that I need to work with when I'm conducting the band? Well, I need to know who the cheerleader coach is, because the cheerleaders have their cheers and they need to have their time to do things. I need to know which official or referee will tell me when a timeout's going to start or when a timeout's going to end, so that I know when to start or stop. If it's a televised game, you need to know who from the network is the person that you look at, because there's one person that will have their hand up or they're holding a sign or something that lets you know we're in commercial. So I can play, and you need to have you're aware of that, because when they raise their hand or drop it or whatever signal they have, that means we're back on TV. You need to stop playing because the game's about to start. So conducting the band, in addition to knowing the songs and working with the group, was how do I take my small part, my small world, and make it fit into this larger world that's all these different pieces, all these different parts of the game.
Well, and you did.
Sometimes more successfully than others, but it's a skill it was a lesson that I've taken with me through my years of teaching, and whether I was a band director or whether I was director of music or as a professional trombonist, when I have an issue, and that could be my big world. If there's something that I need for my class, that could be the only thing I'm worried about. I need to have chalk for my blackboard, and that's a big issue for me in order to get that. So if I go to my supervisor or my principal, I've got this big issue, and I need to understand that's going to be a small issue for the person that I'm speaking with, because not only do they have to make sure that Pete needs chalk for his board, but they need to make sure that the science class has beakers for their experiments, and the social studies class has this, and take care of the parent complaints, and take care of the students, and there's all things going on. So those are all the things in the big world of that school. And then the principal has to understand, with everything going on, that's my big world. If I have a concern and I go to the superintendent, if there's 10 schools in the district, my big world is now a small world in the superintendent's world. So it's all perspective. And when I understood that and I learned that lesson, it really helped me when I knew that I needed to go to supervisors or go to other people and see if I could put things together or ask for help or whatever, that I know this is part of my big world, and I understand it's part of your small world. What can you do to help me, knowing that it's a small part of what you're dealing with, but I want you to understand this is really important to me. Yeah.
That is a good lesson. All right, so you graduate now. He wants to become a high school band director. Is that where the high school band?
That was the ultimate goal. Okay. I didn't get there right away.
So what happened?
Matter of fact, after the first year out, I was working at Geico Insurance, taking insurance claims. Because there were no teaching jobs. I had it was the beginning of September.
Were you still playing your instrument though, right?
Yes,
Got to keep.
So always
be ready.
Yeah. And even as a non-music job, anything that you do, you can. What lessons, like you said, what lessons can I learn in order to make this help me? And taking insurance claims, that would be 8 hours a day of being on the phone with people who don't want to be on the phone with you. Because they're people who are not happy, because they're calling because they just got in an accident. So that was that helped teach me how to handle dealing with people who may not be in the best of moods, and try and see what can we do to bring them out of that. But at the end of a month of that, a job opened up, as it turned out, in Levittown, at one of the elementary schools, Lee Road Elementary School, and I was able to get that.
And what was the job title?
It was elementary band and orchestra director.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very small school. So I would spend mornings working at Lee Road, and then afternoons I would be up at the middle school and high school, where I was teaching sixth grade orchestra and middle school and high school string lessons.
Oh, so you were.
So, as part of a music ed degree, you have to learn how to play every instrument. So even though my violin skills aren't anywhere near what my trombone skills are, I know how to pick it up and teach a 13-year-old how to play. So I spent a year with that, and after a year, my principal and I worked together, and we were able to turn the elementary position to full-time, so that I spent all day at the elementary school. So I did that. Second year, third year, I moved up to a middle school position. And then in the middle of the third year, a job opened up in a neighboring district, Plain Edge High School, which is in North Massapequa, also on Long Island. And that job was opening, and it was going to happen in January.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am in my third year, and am I going to leave a job in the middle of my third year in order to try for another one? Now, when you're teaching, normally it takes 3 years in order to get tenure. And so when you leave a job before having tenure, there's normally some questions as to whether you should stay or leave or not.
Mm.
And I went to my mentors and said, what do I do? And you know what? High school jobs don't come around that often. Go for it. So I interviewed and was lucky enough to get that position.
Wow.
So, yeah, I finally got that high school band position at Plain Edge High School.
Plain Edge High School. Right in the middle of the school year, too. You said January.
In the middle of the school year,
Wow.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you have a family at this point?
No. I met Joanne, who was to become my wife, after I had been in Plain Edge for, I guess, 2 years.
Okay.
And I met her. I was playing trombone with the Nassau Pops Symphony Orchestra, which is a pops orchestra like the Boston Pops.
What does that mean, pops? What does the pops mean?
Pops basically implies that the pieces that the group is doing are normally shorter than normal symphonies.
Oh.
If you were to go to a New York Philharmonic concert, chances are you would hear 1 or 2 or possibly 3 pieces, each of which is going to be between 17, 18 minutes and 45 minutes to an hour. A Pops concert is more 3 to 5 minute pieces. It's usually more popular music. So if you would come to a Nassau Pops concert, you would hear, you might hear 1812 Overture, a famous classical piece, but you'd also hear highlights from The Sound of Music, music from Star Wars, greatest hits from Bruno Mars.
Oh, really?
It's like, right. It's and you'd have singers performing these tunes also. It's a much lighter atmosphere, and it's so you're going to hear 15 or 20 pieces of music in the same time that you would have heard 1 or 2 pieces.
And this was, which Pops was this? The
Nassau Pops. Mm-hmm.
And what made you decide to join them?
I was just getting back into finding places to play, and this was 1989, 1990. So, anybody checking, I'm old. So, I was playing in a pit orchestra for a play, and one of the musicians was Lou Panicciulli, who is the conductor, founder, and the music director of the Nassau Pops. And there was an opening for trombone, and so he asked me to join. And that's how that got started. So, yeah, the Pops is a great orchestra. It really is.
Oh, now I know what Pops means. Awesome. Let's see. So you met your wife after that. And then
we met through the Pops.
The Pops.
I was playing, and she was in charge of publicity.
And she just popped into your mind.
So, there you go. When she hears this, I'll let her make sure that she knows that you were the one who said that, not me. That would be my type of humor.
And then, so you're there and you're working as the high school band director now, right? Finally. Mm-hmm. So now that you have this role, was it what you thought it would be? Did they need a lot of work?
The job of being a music teacher wasn't all that I thought it was going to be. I loved every second of it. The part that I wanted to be involved with, which was performing music, teaching students, getting to know the students, that was more than I ever could have asked for. The students that I worked with, especially at Plain Edge, I'm still friends with a lot of them on Facebook, and they are the most incredible people you'd ever want to meet. Every single one of them. It's such a pleasure. They think I was their teacher, but they taught me a heck of a lot more than I was able to teach them. The parts that I wasn't ready for was the non-teaching parts of the job. Making sure that, little things that you wouldn't think of. You need to take a few minutes of every class and take attendance. like that sounds like nothing, but you have to make sure that those records are accurate. You have to create tests, and then when you give them, collect them back, grade them. Make sure all the paperwork is done there. A lot of meetings that teachers have to go to are, if you ever heard of the phrase, this meeting could have been covered with an email?
Yeah.
There were a lot of those. So those were things. I didn't enjoy all of the paperwork parts of teaching. I loved working with the students. Always have.
That's why he's a teacher.
Yeah.
Let's see, among your other titles, you have Administrator of Fine and Performing Arts.
Right. Yeah.
Is that at Plain Edge?
No, that was... It's right. Now, I've just told you how much the best part of the job was teaching. When I went for my master's degree, as a teacher in New York, you have to get your master's. So in addition to the master's, I kept going and I took classes in order to get an administrative degree so that I could be a director, a principal, something like that. With the thought being that I've got this in my back pocket if a job ever opens up. And the way I'm able to influence the small group of students that I can by being a music teacher, if I'm a district director of music, well, I can influence a much larger group. So I was able to, once I had the degree, a position opened up in one of the other local districts, and I became a director of fine and performing arts. So in addition to being the administrator in charge of running all the music programs for the district, I also was in charge of all the art programs and all the theater programs.
Where do you get the time to do all this?
If it's a fully administrative position, then I'm not teaching anymore. So it's I lost the contact with the students, but I was able to spend more time. It's a much larger time commitment. Yeah. Teachers get to go home. Yes, if a teacher has an option to go home after school, most of them don't. Most of them are staying long hours after school working. As an administrator, I had to make sure that I was available before school, after school, and then if there was anything meeting in the evenings, I would normally have to be there for that. So whereas a teacher, if I had my rehearsal on Monday night, I would have to be there. As an administrator, the teacher might have rehearsal Monday night, but another teacher may have something Tuesday night. Somebody may have a meeting or a parent-teacher or a PTA meeting on Wednesday night. There are things going on almost all the time.
Yeah. And you have a personal life out of this too.
We tried, yeah. And that's a balance that I worked very hard at, and sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I didn't succeed as much as I would have liked.
But the next day is a brand new day.
Every day. That's right. It.
Let's see. What else does he have President of Nassau County Music Educators Association. Here's another.
Yeah.